Hello and welcome to the GameDevBros podcast in this second episode. So today again I am joined by my brother and co-host Ben BB.
Hello.
And so let's start with a little updates on what we've been doing past weeks.
Yeah, no problem. So you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's not much of any like gaming related news, I guess. But I was in a wedding of a friend of mine from school, and it was nice because it was one of pretty much the first event that I've been to since like coronavirus started. So it felt nice. It was cool. So what about you?
So, I'm still looking for a job, right? And apart from that, the only kind of news I have is that 2 days ago I went to a Indian restaurant.
Yeah.
And I took chicken madras, which was pretty spicy. I had some trouble finishing it, but with the help of some white rice on the side, and I actually finished the plate. But then, like yesterday, so the next day after eating that, I was like in pain.
Yeah, you have to be careful with spicy food.
Yeah, I think I'm not used to it. I do like it, but I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like
I don't like it when it's too spicy that you can't eat it, that you have to like kind of pace yourself too much.
Yeah, that was the case in this one.
Yeah, that's a bit too much.
Maybe
but I like
it
when you feel like a big heat while you're eating it.
Yeah,
which is nice.
But yeah, in our home we don't cook spicy food at all, so it's something we do. In our family, it's not something we would do, so we're not used to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so kind of like a mixed experience because the food was really good, but then next day a little bit of pain in the belly. So
tends to be the case. Yeah.
That's like the most interesting news I have as of late.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, yeah. Other than that, which is I guess is linked to the theme of this episode, is we've been watching a little bit of the Summer Games Done Quick.
Yeah, a little bit.
So shout out to that event, which is happens every year, and it's awesome, really.
Yeah, it's fun.
I watch it quite often. And so before we start on the topic, what game are you going to be playing today?
So I'm gonna be playing Roblox. So you may know it's really a compilation of games, kind of. And the one I'm gonna play is it's kind of an engine like focused on online. I don't know if you know about Core, which is a new thing. It's kind of based on that, and there's also the Dreams, which is kind of like the same thing but with better graphics
and
for the PlayStation.
Which is,
But Roblox is something we've been playing since we're very young, I think. And it has changed a lot since.
For a while. Started pretty.
When it was really buggy. When
it was
buggy.
The best at the time.
Better. Yeah. But right now
got worse now that they fixed the wonkiness that it had.
Yeah, we have some nostalgia about like rockets that would not fire from the barrel or would just spin off out of control and explode in your face.
Would end up like bouncing instead of exploding.
Yeah, because the physics were pretty screwed up before, and now they fixed it.
And there were maps, there were games to some extent purely designed on the fact that you only had to wait in a rail, but then the physics were so wrong that it was hard to actually make it to the end, and that was the whole point of the game, is if the physics would like fuck you up or not, which was kind of funny.
It was fun.
It was funny.
Good memories. So but the game I'm playing right now is just a gun game. I don't know if you've played gun game in as a Call of Duty like kind of mod or type of match, where every time you kill somebody you get the next gun, and the first one to get to the last gun, and usually after that you've got the knife, you win. Yeah. And it is a kind of a match that I always enjoyed. Actually, when we played Modern Warfare 1,
that we enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, here in Roblox it's kind of like, it's called Arsenal. There's a bunch of them, but this one is called Arsenal, and it's based on that. So it's almost only gun game. There are a few variations, but it's almost only gun game. And but back when we played Call of Duty 4, so Modern Warfare 1, we really enjoyed gun game. So we played a lot of just gun games.
Yeah, it was always quite fun, quite different.
What I like about it is that you have to adapt really quickly to what's happening. Like, you're not just playing the gun you like the most. You just like you have
Deploying
a very
everything,
lame
yeah.
gun and then a pretty OP gun, and then again you go back to a lame gun, and it's just fun. And the other people also have kind of random guns, so like it switches up the style of everyone is playing. So
Yeah, it's a
So, yeah.
pretty cool game mode.
so that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
And what about you?
And I'll be playing Trackmania again, because like the new update of maps came out with the summer maps, so
Yeah,
I thought it'd be nice to just play through them again.
yeah. And actually, it's a really good game to be playing while discussing,
Yeah, it's
because
a very chill game. So
yeah. And yeah, that's also why I picked this to play while we were talking, because I've played on this gun game kind of mode on Roblox so much that I kind of know the maps by heart, and I'm not paying attention so much. And because it's Roblox,
it's
you play
easy
against.
as well.
It's easy because you play against like 80-year-olds. I like to say, I don't know, but maybe the age average is a bit higher. But I mean, if you ever want to play like an FPS game and feel like you're very OP, like you're very skilled, you just play on Roblox. So you play against kids, and then you feel like you're the best.
Yeah.
So then I'm not gonna bother like playing very well. I'm just like playing however I feel it, and just focus more on the discussion. So
Yeah. So anyways, I wanted to just start by talking a little bit about Summer Games Done Quick, and I guess Games Done Quick in general and their events they do, which I think they're pretty cool.
yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, what?
Yeah. So just wanted to announce the topic.
Yeah.
You probably guessed it, but the topic is speedrunning.
Yeah. We'll talk about speedrunning in general.
Yep.
And related.
I know our point of view as developers as well.
Yeah. So it's gonna be the topic throughout the whole podcast today.
Yep.
So I wanted to exactly start with just talking a little bit about the event, which I think is pretty nice. Is I think also like a place where a lot of people, like including myself, like got to know speedrunning a bit much more. Because I knew it existed, but I never really paid attention to it. And these big events would made it so that I was actually interested in spending some time watching speedruns and then potentially looking into speedruns a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think I already checked a few on YouTube by my own, like on games I was really interested in.
Yeah.
But it's not something I did a lot. So, and this event, it really pushes this forward. So,
which is pretty nice. And then for those of you
it's
who
for
don't
charity.
know, exactly. For those of you who don't know the events that they do, I think they have like winter games done quick, and then summer games done quick, and I think they have more over the years. And what they do is they just the whole event is basically a charity event where they collect donations for a specific cause. It changes for each event. This year is for Médecins Sans Frontières, like Doctors Without Borders, which it's like maybe the second time that they've done it. At least I knew of another time where they also did the same charity, which is always like a nice cause.
Yeah.
And they end up usually actually collecting a lot of money, like millions, which is impressive. Very generous community.
I think we didn't say it, but it's on Twitch.
Yep.
Right.
And they upload the runs on
YouTube.
On YouTube as well. Yeah.
And one of the mechanics they have to try to convince people to donate is that some of the runs are optional.
Yeah,
right?
Not just run. They have different incentives, and some of the incentives might be bonus games, bonus runs. That if they reach a certain amount of money, then they kind of unlock that run, which is nice. And then they have like special things. Maybe in a run, there's like 2 choices on how to do it, and there'll be an incentive to kind of donate towards one or the other way of doing it, and then people can choose this way. Which tends to be pretty nice.
Yep. So we saw. I mean, the first one I saw this week was the Sticks one.
Sticks, yeah. We saw it together.
Styx, the Shard of Truth, I believe, or Shard of... I don't remember the exact name, but it's the second game of Styx.
Game,
yeah. Well, the seconds, I don't know. I think they are very old ones as well. Maybe like the second,
maybe the second of the
one,
I guess
of the modern ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Styx is a game that I'm really interested in. I actually have it on Steam. It's one of those that I bought on sale because it wasn't my wish list for very long, but I still haven't played. I've watched a bunch of playthroughs and stuff of the first modern one. And yeah, I mean, and the speedrun was really entertaining for me, and it really made me want to play it even more. So
yeah, the speedrunners were fun. Yeah.
So yeah, and then we watched a little bit of Nintendogs, which was the bonus game that came just after that.
Yeah, Nintendogs was funny because it's the type of game that you don't expect it would ever be speedrun. Yet someone did, and it was interesting. It was different for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was interested to see what they would do with it, but like after 10 minutes of watching it, I just like skipped it because.
I mean, it was like 25 minutes long, anyways.
Yeah.
It was
okay, so I didn't miss that much. I saw like half of it then.
It was funny because it was very random.
Yeah.
Because you depend a lot on if the dog will do what you tell him to or not.
If he cooperates.
Yeah. Especially because the beginning of it as well is just like you start with like a puppy, which is like very not obedient.
Yeah. I remember one of the things he did was because it works with voice reconnaissance, and it's not it's in the Nintendo DS, right? And the reconnaissance is not the best. So he changed all the commands.
Is very bad, yeah.
Yeah, so he changed all the dog commands because you would have to yell like sit down or things like that so that the dog would do that. But you can change what you have to say. And he just used letters like E, M, or whatever.
Very different
right?
letters so that it's easy to recognize.
Yeah. So it's just one sound, easy to recognize, and like different enough from the other commands so that it's not gonna be mistaken. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, one of the incentives for it as well was like to choose the name of the dog, which was kind of funny for the speedrunner because it depends also a lot on the name of the dog because you have to actually call it. In order to kind of get its attention. Yeah. So like having a bad name could potentially throw the run. So having
the game was
an
okay,
incentive was weird.
He said the game was okay, that it was pretty.
But the name ended up being okay.
I think a few times the speedrunner actually forgot the name and misspelled it.
But it worked fine.
Mispronounced it, but it was not the fault of the dog. That's the fault of the of the guy running it. He probably was too used to having dogs called O or D or something like that.
Yeah, like a very specific sound. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I've watched a few other speedruns. I've watched Jazzbonk, which is like a game I really love. I think it's an amazing game. It's just a massive.
You've played it, right?
I have actually not played it. I've watched a bunch of it. I really want to play it, and it's one of those games that I have on my wish list for so long. I should just buy it at some point and play it.
Yeah.
But it seems just amazing, honestly.
It was a game I was not aware of. Maybe I have heard mentioned a few times, but it didn't stick in my mind. And when I watched a little bit of the run, it actually I'm
very funny, very full of like weird stuff, completely unexpected.
Yeah, very unexpected stuff.
Yeah. And it's made by two guys, which is also cool.
And I mean, as a developer, also I got some inspiration from it because the fact that all the characters are just like a single block of a model that don't have animations, but the game still has a charm, right? Because as a developer, you would say, well, if you have like characters without animations that just float around, that's gonna just be too lame as a game. But then you see it in this game and it works fine, so you say, well, maybe I can do it as well.
I mean, in this game also it's very comical, so it's not like a type of game, because if you need a game that needs to like transmit emotions through the animations and so on, obviously
a lot of immersion.
But in this type of game, which is just silly and like just a mashup of different references and stuff, then it works. It just works.
But I'm willing to believe that even if you want a game with immersion and kind of like more serious game, and like if you polish it enough, even without animations, I think the player will be okay with it.
Yeah, potentially.
I mean, there's been games full of immersion and are not that detailed. I'm thinking about how was that game about surviving in the cold?
I don't remember. Yeah, I know what game you made. You see.
But it was really low poly.
Like,
I mean, you had animations, but the game was really, really low poly, and still the game was a bit lame that we don't remember the name.
yeah.
Maybe I'll just.
I think Days Gone or something. How is it? Days Gone?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Anyways, yeah, it is quite low poly, but it's not like it's quite immersive. But yeah.
Yeah, and
like
the
only actual human it's you. Otherwise, it's just dead people.
Yeah, but I think there are some animations of bears and
you have like animals
and stuff. Yeah, deers.
So
I mean, but yeah, that's like especially for us. Like, I mean, you know modeling more than me, but for me, that I've done like almost nothing in modeling and animation and all of that. In terms of like the artwork of it, like
but of course, like it just takes modeling. Like I'm not good enough to make a humanoid character properly, or even animals and stuff. It would take me a while. So any modeling I do, I tend to just do very low poly.
And animation is another thing.
And and having to actually hook it up with like animation and rigging and so on is just so much work.
Yeah.
So it's those are like that it's possible or not. It's just that it just takes a long time.
And each of those are like careers of their own. So
of course.
If we were going to make a game, like let's say, I mean, definitely if I were to make a game alone or like close to alone, I would try to minimize all the animations and all the like especially organic models, because blocky things like cars or spaceships or things like that are kind of easy to do, I think. But when you go to like plants or animals or whatnot, it starts getting difficult. So,
well, animation for plants are not necessarily a problem, but the modeling of it can be weird.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely a refresher to see a game like that, and that's why one of the reasons I stopped watching it was because I became interested in the game and I wanted to play it and experience it on my own. And especially since the run was like a run that was doing everything.
Yeah, it was not very glitched or anything, so it was actually kind of going through the game.
And they were going through the game, but also doing every single like side quest and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So then, like,
there is more to the game, but it's not.
I don't know. I felt like it would spoil most of it, and I was like, if I want to play someday. I probably want to experience them, and the game is really based on surprises, right? So if you know what's going to happen, it kind of spoils the whole experience, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, I was super curious about there was a GeoGuessr run, which I didn't know it was like a thing. And I don't know, it was okay, but it was just like normal GeoGuessr playing. Apparently. So they explained the way they played it. It was just like a normal game where they can move around and stuff, and they just have to. The idea was they had to guess the 5 guesses perfectly, as in they had to get maximum points for all of them. So they had to know exactly the road they were in and like exactly the intersection and so on they were in. From like I don't know exactly how many meters they have of leeway, but it's not much. So it was quite interesting, but apparently the way that whenever they do that was like kind of the marathon way of doing it. But for like actual speedrun, apparently they take a mode where they're not even allowed to move.
Oh.
And then the only thing they do is just spawn look at the place and then select it on the map, and they have to get it exactly. And only by looking at some clues and by looking on the map, they should figure it out.
It's funny because that game. And sorry, I cut you off. You can continue.
Yeah, I was just saying. Apparently, like the way they do it is that they almost never play through the whole thing. So if they spawn and if they see that they don't know the place, then they just start again, and that's it.
Okay.
It's like a lot of people
that's a bit lame.
Just knowing certain locations, and they hope that they'll just land on those, I guess.
I mean, it feels like watching that is a bit lame if they're just restarting.
Which is why they did it differently for like the marathon.
Yeah, it makes sense. So that it's more entertaining for the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch that one. GeoGuessr, I find it's a very nice game to play with family and stuff.
It's a fun.
Especially like people of our parents' generation or a bit older that have never gamed anything, but they actually probably have traveled quite a lot, and they're really happy to like test their mettle on geography. So
yeah. I have played it with my mom and my grandpa as well.
Yeah. I wasn't there. I think I didn't play with you, but it sounded fun.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't play for.
We should do it again. Do it again maybe with. So yeah, if you've got family that has traveled a lot and likes to talk about those travels, probably you can very easily convince them to play that game.
Yeah, you might be able to like hook it up to the TV or something, so like a lot of people can play together.
Yeah, can participate, and it sounds like a really fun game for casual people that loves geography and travel.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm interested in the Factorio as well. That is not yet.
It's
not yet happened.
Will happen today, I think, in a few hours.
And I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be interesting or boring. I don't know, because Factorio is a management game, right? And there are different ways of running it, or of playing it. Different ways to specialize. I'm not the hugest guy in that game. I've played a little bit, but I know, for example, one way I played was doing all renewable energy, like solar panels and stuff like that. And what ends up happening in that game is that the aliens only attack you if you pollute the world.
Yep.
So you can end up just having a run when nobody attacks you ever. So you actually have to attack them to get some resources. It actually kind of like breaks a bit the game, I think, because part of the game is defending against those hordes.
Your base, right?
Yeah. And then another way of playing it that I've never tried is you've got those robots that would do everything for you, and you can just stand in the middle, do nothing, and like kind of control a bunch of robots that do everything for you. They build everything and
and
expand your base.
Yeah. You were assuming that potentially that's the way they're gonna do it.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the way, I'm gonna watch it a little bit, at least for a little bit, because I'm really interested in that way of playing it.
Yeah.
But I know there's a bunch of crazy stuff you can do with trains, stuff like that. I mean, I feel like they're probably not gonna go with the trains that much, because setting up the trains is a bit of a pain, as I remember. And in the end, one thing that is a bit OP in that game is that conveyor belts do not use energy, because the train uses fuel, right?
Yeah.
So to move things, so a train is awesome, and like it's really. I mean, I had fun a lot with the trains in the game, but if you go for speed and effectiveness, efficiency, you probably would just have very long conveyor belts. They're not so hard to put down, and they're just actually free energy, right? Because they move things from one place to another without costing anything. So I feel probably that's the way they're gonna go, or the robots. I don't know. I mean, conveyors you need for sure for the. For moving stuff around, but there are some robots that fetch as well, so I don't know. I'm interested to see what's gonna happen. Yep.
All right. I don't have seen any other big. Not this year. I think I haven't watched a lot more.
Yeah, and I feel like we should probably start talking about the topic, because we've just discussed what we are watching and what we want to watch. But So the topic is more than that. It's also about
Yeah, yeah,
what are our thoughts and how do we deal as developers.
yeah. I thought we could like segue into talking about what we think as developers at least would be acceptable for if we see speedrunners use,
Yeah, I mean,
and
first
why
of all,
we would consider that it's like too broken or like potentially
yeah,
would need a patch or something.
yeah. First of all, is how do we see as a whole speedrun, right? Is it
Yeah,
a bad thing
fair
or is
enough.
it a good thing, right? Because maybe some people may think that doing a game that is not purposely built for
Like,
speed,
yeah, not properly playing a game. It's
it's probably not the way to do it. But that's not our thought, right? That's not our opinion at all.
no, of course not. No, of course.
So yeah, I think we both think that like it's your game, right? Played as you wish.
Yeah,
And if you are having fun in other ways, that's awesome. Like,
and I definitely see it, like clearly the appeal of wanting to see how fast you can do it.
yeah, I've actually never tried to speedrun any game myself.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm not really a completionist either, so usually what I do when I play games is I just enjoy the experience. And when I feel like I do some side quests, and sometimes I go on to collecting stuff.
Yeah,
It depends, right? It depends on if I'm having fun or not, if I want the experience to last more or not. But
yeah. I don't tend to collect much either.
I mean, I've done some collecting in some games, but it really depends on the game and just my feeling. And sometimes when I start collecting stuff, I never reach the 100% of that collection. Let's say you have to collect different shells, something. Like when I reach 80 or 90, I say, and there's a point where collecting new things is really really hard because you either have
like
to
a
go
few
to
ones. Yeah, you have to go around.
they're
the map.
very rare and stuff, and probably you have missed them and you have to go back to places where you have already been like 20 times, and
Yeah.
so that's the point I just quit because I don't want to go to the internet to like just show me the places.
I tend to avoid having to look in the internet.
Yeah, me too. So then what I do is like, okay, I've got like 86% of the collectors. I don't find any more. I don't want to go back to all the old zones and everything. That's it for me, right? And I consider that I have collected all that was like humanly possible, which is not true, right? But I would say like,
or at least that you want to spend time on, basically.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, without beginning to be a core, right? Just a chore.
But overall, I've finished 2 games in my life. I mean, we talked about it in the pilot, that we finished Lego Star Wars.
Yeah, that one we
together. We
finished
100%.
But yeah, it was different because we were playing both together in the same game, right?
Yeah, and it's not that difficult.
I mean,
because you have like the mini kits, which you have to kind of find a little bit weirdly, and then there was like the last level. The special level, which was a bit hard.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's not like a difficult game.
I mean, we're kids, right? So it felt like hard for me, at least, to find everything. But
I mean, we
were doing it together.
We do the same maps a few times in order to get all the mini kits.
And because we were doing it together, like sometimes I would like try a level that I knew there was some mini kit there I couldn't find or I couldn't reach or something.
Yeah.
And then I would fail, and then I would pass you the controller, and you would try, and so it wasn't one guy doing over and over the same level, so it was fun. But yeah, we're getting sidetracked a little bit. Sorry, it was my fault.
Oh, no,
but yeah, so on our opinion on speedrun, right? So I think one of the questions we have to answer is how do we tackle those situations where we build games? And I can talk about my experience. The first thing I want to get out of the way is that I feel like if it's a glitchy way to pass a section or a level or something, that's like it starts to go into the red zone. It's not yet on the red zone. It depends really on what the glitch is, on the bug. If there's I think my rule of thumb is is it a bug that somebody that's playing the game just normally would encounter um, like randomly, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you're yeah, like your rule is kind of based on how hard is it to do.
Yeah, how hard, but not how hard when you want to do it. How hard is it to do
Yeah.
without
Like,
wanting? Because what I don't want is people that are not into speedrunning and not into hacking their way through things.
yeah,
To
like a
end
guy
up
who just
finding
wants to play the
bug.
game ends up just going
Skipping,
through a
yeah.
place he's not supposed
Imagine
to.
imagine you skip a boss fight or something, but you're just really enjoying the game. You don't want to skip the boss fight. You want to experience it, right?
Yeah.
It's content that you've paid for, and you want to.
At that point, for me,
potentially
it's
pay
also
for.
clear that it's just it has to be patched. Like that should not be that way.
Yeah. But let's say there's a bug where if you take a certain item and you do a certain thing in a certain spot, then you can glitch through the walls and like skip 2 levels straight, right? Something like that. I feel like that's okay because it's not gonna happen to you unless you really want it.
Yeah.
So it would not like take away from the experience of somebody that's just playing the game normally. So those are the things I'm looking for. But then there's another thing that, let's say there is something that is really hard to do, but you can pass the whole game with that, right? Maybe not in like just doing it once, but let's say in every level there's the same mistake, same kind of way of solving things.
Yeah, the same glitch. Like one of the runs we
same
saw
kind of
today,
glitch.
or we briefly saw today, was like an old game, and basically the glitch was that
It's Arabic Nights, I think it was called.
no,
Arab
it was
Nights.
Arabic. Was it? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, and
Very
the glitch was you can jump, and then there's an item that you can use, and if you use it in the air, it kind of stops you, and it allows you to jump again. And he basically passed the whole game just using that same glitch in order to pass through ceilings and pass through walls.
Yeah. So actually, seeing that way of passing things, that's where I kind of learned something new because because of what I've said before, it would be okay for me because that's kind of a weird way to find the glitch, right? So somebody that's playing normally would not encounter that probably.
Yeah.
Although I would, as a developer, I would feel safer. Yeah. As a developer, I would feel safer if it involved 2 items or something a bit more complex because it really seems it could happen, right? I mean, you never know, but as a developer, I would be scared that somebody would just pull up that item in the middle of a jump.
Yeah. I mean, he might just like use the item, see that it stops you, and then try to jump after.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem that hard to just pull up randomly.
Yeah, it is not that hard, but it's a bit on the limit for me. But the problem is not that. The problem is because with the same exact thing you can pass the whole game. Yeah. Then what ends up happening when you're seeing a speedrun is that you see none of the game.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I got out of that game, because it's a game I've never known before, I've never seen before, the only thing I got out of that game is that it's buggy. Right.
Yeah.
Seeing the speedrun because I mean we saw the cinematics. I think he left them because he wanted.
That was part of his run type. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wanted to just see the dialogues basically.
And I feel he did it because that's the only thing that kind of interesting to look at because.
And apparently, like the game, from what they've been saying as well, the game is bad. It was just that it has funny dialogues and like a funny story, which is why he wanted to showcase it. Rather than that, the game is like.
But even if the game wasn't bad, right? If you had something like that would, then it's a bit of a shame, right? Because as a developer, you kind of want to, like something like what happened with Sticks, right? That we saw the game, and it actually gave me even more.
It made you want to play.
Yeah, it made me want to play even more than before. So that because I saw, I mean, there were a lot of glitches, there were a lot of ways to skip things. And we will probably discuss about that because it was a funny way.
It was an interesting way, yeah.
Yeah, but
unusual that was the case.
But in some places, they just did the level normally, maybe very, very fast, and like they knew where everything was, but they were actually interacting with the things in the game in a kind of normal way, so you could get a feel of the game. And as a developer, I feel that's what I want. I want like people that would do people that would be watching speedruns they also get a little bit of a feel of the game. Not only the glitchy things I've done all the game, that's it. Sometimes
they
you
get
see,
to know the game a little bit.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, and I agree. I also agree with the fact that, well, especially with like that game, like Arabic Nights,
Yeah,
the fact that he can finish the game or like speedrun the whole game with one glitch is a
the
bit of
same
a
glitch
pity as
over
well.
and over.
It also
Yeah.
makes the run less fun to watch. Like
Yeah,
already.
I figure that's why he put the cinematics, because that's the only thing that you could kind of enjoy watching.
Because it
But
is.
yeah, the
like,
game was really glitchy.
Because I do kind of agree with you, and I would like kind of continue with the idea that it was, if a speedrun has to be creative and has to find different ways of finishing, because maybe there's a glitch that is somewhat easy to do, but he ends up not using it that much just because there's like other ways that he found, or more different ways of doing stuff, and I would be fine with it. But it's true that if there's like one bug or one glitch that like a speedrunner uses all the time because it's just like the easiest way to just break everything, I would just tend to want to patch it.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if there's different ways to break through the game, if the result of it is that you don't see none of the game, then I'm still not okay with it.
Yeah.
Because I think as a developer, you are proud of what you've done and you've spent many hours working on them, and so you want the people at least to have like a small feel of it. I'm not saying like you have to do every single boss or every single fight scene or anything like that, but if you are making skip 80% of the fight scenes and then you do 20% of them, that's enough, right? People already kind of get a feel of what the game is about, and maybe they're gonna be interested in and they're gonna play it. So
yeah,
that's
overall I'd agree. But if it is like very weird, I wouldn't necessarily mind.
Yeah, I don't know. And then so for example, I've done a game. I think I talked about it in the previous podcast.
Yeah.
I've got a game. It's called Mirror Above the Sun that has been published on Steam recently, and I haven't checked if there are speedruns yet. I mean, it's a crappy shooting game.
I would not expect it. No.
Yeah, so not so that many people are gonna play it. It's free, by the way, but
yeah, check it out.
there are a few people that have done playthroughs and stuff. And yeah, so we were actually thinking about speedruns a little bit when we were doing the game.
I didn't think you would, because that is one of the big points that I wanted to mention in this podcast, which is that we should always consider speedrunning.
Yeah.
At least, spend a little bit of time just thinking, potentially someone is going to speedrun it. How would they do it? What things can we change? How can we improve the experience for that?
Yeah.
So I'm actually like surprised that you did, because I feel like probably most developers wouldn't necessarily think about it.
Yeah, so I will tell you how it went, because it wasn't that we just gathered around the table. I mean, we're like 11 in the team, right? So it wasn't just we weren't just around the table saying, okay, now let's think about how speedrunners would do it. No, that's not how we did it. How we did it is we actually, while we were programming and stuff like that, like things were half finished. And then we saw, I mean, if I leave this that way, somebody could skip this part, right?
Yeah.
And then we thought, okay, what's the problem with it? If somebody skips this, is this like really hurting the game? And then we decided, no, that's like, I think it's okay if they can skip it this way. So then we left it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how the process went, and especially so. I mean, the game, it's a student game. It's not polished enough.
Of course,
I'm sure there's plenty of bugs and stuff and ways to pass the game that are not that we never thought about, and probably that kind of break the experience of the game. But the ones we did think about, most of them there are arenas with enemies, and you can just ignore the enemies and go to the exit right away, right? In a few arenas you can do that, and I find it like that's okay. And in one of those instances, it's actually I actually love it a lot, because if you do that, then like there's a huge enemy that spawns.
There's a cinematic part of it, yeah.
It's not a cinematic because you never lose control. You never lose control of the player.
visually like cinematic.
Visually appealing.
Yeah.
But I will not tell what it is, because instead, if you're gonna play it, then it's gonna be a surprise. Although I think it's on the trailers, but yeah, let's leave the surprise. But if you skip that part, then there's a huge enemy that comes and destroys the enemies that you missed. So it's actually pretty rewarding, I think, for the player to say, "Oh, if I do that, like, the enemies get killed by their own like kind of friend." So that's fun, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah.
Also, I have to say that we left some cheat codes in the game.
Oh yeah.
And in that case, the reason was not for speedrunners. The reason was because the game is not polished enough, and we're not 100% confident on the game, and we always have that fear that somebody that would play it can get stuck.
Potentially is gonna get stuck, yeah,
or die in a loop or something. We left like a few cheat codes, so that if we were to show the game to, let's say, a potential hiring manager or something,
publisher,
and he gets stuck, then we can tell him, hey, you can do this and
go to
jump to the next checkpoint or something like that, because you have to understand it's a student game, and the main purpose of the game,
it was like very time restrictive, so you couldn't just say, we'll just publish it next week.
I mean,
doesn't work.
What we should have done with that game, if we wanted to really have a clean experience, we have probably spent like 2 more months just polishing, finding bugs and stuff like that.
But of course, because you have to like finish it at a certain deadline, and then that's it.
So there's a deadline, and then nobody touches the game ever after. So that's how it goes. But the main purpose of the game, it's not for people to play it, although that's what we would like to happen. The main purpose of the game is for us to find a job, right? It's linked in our portfolios and stuff, and then companies will look at them, hopefully, and if they like it, they will hire us, right? So that's why we left the cheat codes, because we don't want a company that somebody of a hiring that's going to hire me potentially in a company to be stuck and then do not be able to see parts of the game that really make it shine and potentially
of course. But anyways,
get a hire.
I wanted to reiterate on one thing you said, which is what something that I wanted to mention as well, is you said that a lot of it you would figure it out yourself because you're testing the game.
Yeah.
And of course, what people not necessarily know is that whenever you're making a game, of course, you're replaying the same section many times, because of course you're testing everything, you're adding a new feature, you're retesting it, you're adding a new feature, you're changing some values, you're testing it again, and you tend to end up finding speedrunning strats yourself.
And using them to get to the part
where you want to test stuff. There is an IGN show that they have on YouTube, which is it's a very it's a nice premise. The idea is simply they make the developers of a game watch speedruns of their game, and in most of the videos, I've watched a few. Yeah, it is quite entertaining, and most of them you end up having the developer saying, I actually knew about this because I used it, or I just knew about it, but I didn't think people would normal people would necessarily use it or whatever, or they know about certain things and they're like, I'm actually surprised they found it and stuff, and it's usually tends to be the case that they actually knew those kind of strats and possibilities. They just thought that, like you said, that most people would not end up in that situation, and that was not necessary to kind of spend a lot of time fixing it.
And sometimes you actually saving time by leaving those, because you use them as a testing mechanic, because you want to, as you said, you want to get to a particular point of the level.
And overall time is restrictive, so you have to make choices, and sometimes a lot of those bugs are probably not the most important thing. So you'd rather just spend time working on other stuff than fixing errors that don't really change the game and that most people won't see anyways.
Yeah, for sure. But I want to actually highlight what you've said, that sometimes you actually create them on purpose, because
Okay.
you are replaying the game 100 times. And you are sick of having to first go. Let's say there's a cinematic or something.
I mean, you
normally
would definitely create, like you said, like the cheat codes, like the buttons, the combination of buttons that would skip
Usually it's with buttons, but not always.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people, while they are like developing the game, they get creative with that stuff, you know. And in the end, it's a fun profession, and like, why not have fun also when when developing it, right?
Of course.
And I wanted to touch on something else. It's a bit of a sidetrack, but I'm gonna just say 2 words about it. Is because this is something that you may know from other channels and other discussions of game developers. But when you play your game 100 times to debug, you actually get pretty good at it. And then what happens is that your opinion on the difficulty of the game, it's never a good.
Biased,
it's never good. Yeah, it's really biased. Sometimes you think, yeah, this game is really easy, and then you look at people playtesting it, and they just struggle so much. This is something that actually happened in this game as well, where the boss fight was actually very hard, and the guy that made it, I mean, he spent like, I don't know how many weeks doing the boss fight. Just the boss fight alone.
Of course, he replayed it multiple times. He knew exactly where the things were going to spawn.
Yeah, I mean, you end up playing it maybe 1,000 times, right?
Of course.
So the guy, I mean, he didn't know where things were going to spawn because it has some kind of randomness in it. But he actually knew the patterns that were possible and everything. I mean, in the end, it just becomes natural to you when you play it enough times, right?
Yeah.
And so the guy, we had to like lower the difficulty a lot after some playtesting. So that's why also playtestings are so important. But that's a bit of a sidetrack. I just wanted to mention it because you mentioned the fact that we as developers play the game a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
We end up being speedrunners ourselves.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Although I feel like speedrunners sometimes have a lot of imagination and they find things we don't. But
yeah, for sure. And it's
because we don't take. I think
creating a whole community of people actually trying to find ways of breaking the game in order to make it faster. So obviously, it's like a slightly different way of thinking about it.
And I think one of the differences as well is that a speedrunner might like start a level and try everything like he can think of. And we as developers, we don't do that because we're fixing a bug. So we go as fast as possible to that place, but we are not spending, let's say, the setup time of finding every single way of going there.
Yeah.
And the game is also changing, evolving while we're doing this, right? Because I'm solving this bug, and then another teammate is gonna add a feature that's not there. Potentially, the speedrunner will use that feature to go to that part of the game faster. But I could not do that because that feature was not in the game when I was debugging that other thing. So you see how it goes. But yeah, I wanted to say something else, but I forgot. So
yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to go into what should we think about whenever, like, with making a game. To what extent should we think about speedrunners, and to what extent we should kind of enable it, or well, mostly just think about it and potentially change the way that we make the game, or adapt the way that we make the game, knowing that speedrunners exist, of course.
So I think I know what you wanna say. It is about like preparing the platforms and the things to go, like, if you go straight like the fastest way possible, you actually have everything lined up properly, and that feels like really nice.
That is definitely one of the things, especially for like platformer games, and which is something that that's something that I never really paid attention to, and when watching speedruns, you realize that, well, actually this is important, and making the choice whether you do it one way or another. And so to explain exactly what I mean is, a lot of games, especially platformer games and like 2D platformers, well, they have like platforms that move, they have like enemies that have a certain movement pattern, and so on, and a lot of games make it so that the way that they move and the way that they spawn, independently of where they are in the map, is always consistent.
Yeah, it's not a random thing.
It's not a random thing, so it is based on cycles or whatever, or like
It really depends on the game, but for those
depending,
games,
of course, on the game, yeah. And it
some
tends
games
to
you don't
be
want that.
like a very important thing for speedrunners.
Yeah,
Because they end up knowing, well, I could skip here, for example, and I would gain 2 seconds, but gaining 2 seconds would mean that I would be in a different cycle for this moving platform, which means that I have to wait for it for like half a second or a second and a half, which makes them have to make decisions whether they want to be in that next cycle or not.
yeah.
And I found that it was quite interesting because it was something I never really thought about, and I feel like when making a game, it's something that we should at least consider, even if we then don't necessarily do anything or just do it normally. I think we should always at least consider it.
Yeah, so that's something I want to bounce on. First of all, I agree with you. It is something that I did think about, but I never actually put into practice. And so one of the reasons is that I feel it's the next step, right? So the first step on like thinking about speedrunning would be what I said about you just have things half finished and you actually think, well, if I leave it like this, it kind of enables this kind of skip and I'm fine with it, so I leave it. And the same as I said, we are doing things for as a developer to make our lives easier, and then we'll leave it in the game potentially for speedruns to find. But then what you're saying is much more involved, because this is not, it's not like things that would happen naturally and then you leave them. It's something that you actually make it on purpose, so that
and you might have to think about it before you start even.
So that's one of the things that we did not do for the game because we did not have time to do it, but it's something that we definitely had in our mind. At least I had on my mind that I would like to do. Although in our game there's not so many moving platforms and stuff that would benefit from this, but
I think there's one section which potentially, but then I don't think it was necessary.
But even without actually planning where the platform is gonna be, because you said like the choice of the speedrunner that maybe he's gonna just waste a second waiting for the platform or something like that. But I think you can plan for it to be like definitely I'm kind of getting the vibe of Rayman Legends. In the let's say in the musical levels, you would go full speed and everything would line up properly. Right. You needed some skill, but and I feel that's really rewarding when you don't have to wait.
That's usually what you want, and I think like as developers what we should try to aim for. But what I meant is that it's important for speedrunners. Obviously, the idea is that if you do the game the way it's supposed to, our job as developers should be that everything should line up so that you just go through.
But
the game, but the thing about the speedrunners is that they're not gonna play the game as they should, and they're gonna probably skip a part. But then skipping a part will mean that we don't know how much they're gonna skip. Therefore, we don't know how to change the cycles, right? So the cycles will not be like planned anymore.
Yeah, for sure. But so the important part then is that everything is consistent. It's not random, right? Yeah. But let's say you have a platform in a 2D platforming game like Mario or something like that. Let's say you've got a platform that moves right to left. You've seen that 100 times probably in games. Like if it always starts in a particular position and always go to the right, and at the end it goes to the left and so on. Then you can predict what's going to happen.
Exactly.
But you could also have
that's
the platforms
like the important thing. It should
be random. And as a developer, you might actually think it's a good idea because it makes each time you restart the game a bit different. But I feel that for those type of games, you shouldn't do that.
Well, I think what I wanted to get to as well, which we'll get to, but the main idea was that obviously there's no, like, all games are different and there's no perfect way of doing it. I think that the idea I wanted to go to is that we should at least consider
think of the consequences.
If we make a decision, make it knowing, at least having thought about it. So we made a decision knowing that it's gonna have those consequences and the impact.
And then I'm gonna bounce on that to give the example of Styx, the yeah, speedrun we watched, because in that game the speedrun many times was telling, well, here sometimes the AI would go do another cycle and then it would screw up my run and I have to reload the save and everything. And it happened quite a lot. But in that game, in Styx, for example, I feel you actually want things to be random. Why?
I would
because
agree,
it's a stealth game, right?
And it's also like a decently hard stealth game in the sense that it has like very low health.
I mean, you die in one shot almost all the time. So it's a stealth game in the proper way of the term, in which you really want to avoid fights as much as possible. You almost never kill anyone, and if you kill somebody, you kill it stealthily from behind, so that he has no chance.
Or using like traps or something. Yeah.
But the thing is, it's a game in which you will end up replaying the levels quite a few times, probably, because you don't know the map. You play, like when you play it for the first time, let's say, so you don't know the map, you're gonna probably end up in a situation where there's a lot of guards that see you and they're gonna shoot at you with arrows or knives, throwing knives or whatnot, and you're gonna die. And then you're gonna start the map again, right? If the AI does exactly the same thing, it kind of breaks the immersion. It breaks the...
And it ends up being like a learning game and not necessarily
it ends up being a pattern matching game and not a stealth game. And what you want is, of course, the player will learn about the map, and he will learn maybe... In that game, you can go through many different ways to reach the same spot.
Yeah.
But the AI will always be something that is random. So you never know if the guy is gonna be in this room or in this other room. So you have to be very careful, very stealthy. You cannot just run through.
You have to constantly be careful and like pay attention to what's happening.
And that's the appeal of the game. So you do not want to hinder it by having predictable AI patterns, which is a pain for the speedrunners. But the game is not made primarily for speedrun, right? A game is made primarily for the regular players, and then it's a bonus. The speedrun is a bonus. So sometimes you may sacrifice speedrunner.
Of course. That's why you shouldn't necessarily like make the game for speedrunners.
Yeah, but like for sure in like regular 2D platformers, there's no reason not to do it, because like it's not about that. And if you learn the patterns of the platforms, like it's not something that players would kind of break the immersion of the players or anything like that. It's just like probably some people will not even notice it, and if they notice it, they will find it natural.
Yeah, it's not going to change your experience of the game in any way.
Yeah. So it depends. Yeah. But now that we've talked about Styx, could we talk a little bit about the way he was doing to pass the levels, because that was.
Maybe we can mention it because it is also like quite interesting.
Yeah.
Even in the development part of it, because it's weird. So yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, the one of the main ways that he was skipping the levels was in every level there is actually a physical kind of platform. It's out of the boundaries of the game, so you have to clip through walls and stuff to get there. But and it's not always in the same spot, I think. I think it's like
for each map. They have multiple maps, and each map has its own.
In each map, it has its own thing, and there are buttons on the floor on that platform, and those buttons you could press them to activate as if you had done parts of the level.
Yeah.
And you have to understand this is because that game you can do it in different ways, and depending on how you finish the levels, potentially you would get some objects or not, or you would.
And you have different side missions that you can or cannot do, which can potentially also impact other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's a skill tree, so maybe you get less skill points if you don't do all of. I don't know. So things of that nature. So in the end, what they would do is they would go to that part and they would just activate the buttons of the side quest they want to have made, let's say.
Yeah.
And then they would activate the last button that was like the end, and they would skip to the next level. And so it's fun. It's really interesting because we can discuss a bunch of things that we already said with this thing. One of them is that it's a tool for the developers, for sure.
Yeah, like, that was what the developers did in order to trigger certain things and not have to do the whole level every time, which is what we
And especially mentioned. For a game that has multiple paths, multiple ways of doing it, you want to test every single one of them and in a easy and quick
and every mission connections and all of those things.
Yeah. So So that's why it was built there, right? It was not for speedrunners at all. And then they left it. I don't think they left it for speedrunners, because this one, at least I would not have left it. Because
I don't understand that. That's like the interesting part, which is we don't really understand why they would leave it there.
But maybe it's about because of tight schedule. Maybe it's because they were really sure that nobody would find them, because they were pretty far away.
Game has that as well.
I have no clue.
Because I would assume that they've also made it in order to test the game.
Yeah.
But they then potentially would have removed it compared to the second one, which they didn't.
Yeah. It is also something that you would leave for playtests, because as I said, like if somebody gets stuck, you want him to still be able to play the game. Then you would just run to his computer and do this. Probably tell him to watch through the other side so he doesn't do it. And the way I think the also something that is interesting is that the way I think the developers would trigger those buttons would not be by clipping through the walls with glitches. It would be by having a God mode. So probably they would have like kind of a cheat code,
probably
to be no. So you would be able to move like a ghost through all the walls and everything, and I mean, you've probably seen that in games like Skyrim and things like that, where you can activate. Like I think it's called no clip. I think it's called in Skyrim, where you can move freely in 3D and go through everything.
Yeah.
They probably had some kind of command like that, and they would like if some playtesters to get stuck, or if they want to test some part of the level, they would probably go into that mode and then reach that part, activate the buttons, and then go back to the place they want to see, and they would see if everything is behaving correctly, or if there's a bug to fix or something. But then maybe what they did is they just disabled the cheat code, and they did not leave the room.
The kind of fast solution was just to disable that cheat code.
Yeah.
And not go everywhere. Yeah.
Something very funny as well is that actually that speedrun was really entertaining, not only because of the game and what they were doing, but also because the two guys, the one playing and the other one discussing it, were pretty fun, I would say. And well, so one thing they said, and what was pretty funny to me, is that in one of those platforms, actually the platform was kind of way below the buttons, so you had to jump and like attach, like it was kind of a parkour type of thing to like, be able to jump on the buttons section. Because there was no floor between the buttons, right? You would fall down and then you would not be able to reach the buttons again. And they said in the, I don't know if you remember that, they said during the run, they said that maybe the developers knew we were gonna use this and they made this more difficult, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's a clear no. That's not what happened. What happened is that because they were activating it in God mode, probably. So all of this is speculation. You have to understand all of this speculation. I have talked to nobody from the company or anything like that. But because I've done games, I kind of expect how they would do it. I kind of guess. And because they would go in God mode, they don't need a floor actually to activate the buttons, right? You would just type game type God mode or whatever, and they would go freely on the level and activate buttons, so they would not need the floor. And why is the floor then down? Well, somebody probably clicked on it by mistake and dragged it on the bottom, or they were testing some kind of bug about jumping through platforms, and instead of doing it in a proper level, they just did it in the bottoms level. So something just stupid and like this, I think. That's probably the answer.
Definitely could be, for sure.
And not at all because they thought the people would be able to access it and they wanted to make it harder. Yeah. So yeah, it was funny. And yeah, and another quick thing about that speedrun was, as you noticed, this way of passing the levels, it falls into that category of things that you're not actually playing the level.
Yeah, you should, like, it's definitely one of those things that should not be there, for sure.
Yeah, but what I want to say is, like, then you might ask, well, you said that the speedrun was actually fun and that you liked watching it, but you also said that you didn't like when this happens. So first of all, like as a developer, so if I were the developer of Sticks, I would not want that to happen. I would have like to remove that. But then also, the speedrunners do not use it all the time. That's what you have to understand.
Yeah,
so like it is in every
levels that they don't actually use it.
Yeah, it is in every level, but in some levels they do not use it because it's actually longer to be able to go to the specific place where you can click through the wall when you can access it than just playing the level in a kind of regular way.
Yeah. So they do have to they did have to find like weird clips through the level in order to go outside bounds.
Yeah, yeah. So they need some items. They need some items and stuff.
Yeah. So it was like quite hard to do, and they had to find specific places in the walls.
Yeah.
Where they could clip.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it was just too hard to do, and it would take too long. But they did say that it was possible in all levels to get to that part.
Yeah. But for example, the first 2 levels they didn't do it because they didn't have the item to do it because they had to like make a clone or something and then teleport to the clone. And I think they did not have the skill either to do it. So then in the end, what happens is that the first 2 levels they played it like in a regular kind of way, with a few like tricks and stuff to skip some little parts of the level, but still you could really see how the game plays, right? Mm-hmm. And then there were some levels that they would use that, and some others that because it was so hard to get to that platform, they would not. So I feel that that's a good kind of speed run because you still get to see the game.
Yeah, which ends up being like quite negative as for the view of the game, for the people watching it, because they will only remember that the game was super glitched, and they won't necessarily get the feeling of what the game is about.
Yeah,
and ends up being just bad marketing to some extent. Although any marketing is good marketing for some people.
And also you have to say that speedrun usually comes pretty late after the game has been released.
Yeah,
I would expect that before 2 months of a game's release, you would not have completely game-breaking ways to do the speedrun. So
yeah, of course,
it's not so much of an issue, right? But still, for marketing, because most of the marketing goes before the game, and most of the sales also are, let's say, in the first year or something like that. But it's just, I think, it's more about pride of the developer as well.
Yeah, of having your game being played and not just broken.
Yeah, and if you can kind of see that, like, if the game is completely broken and everything, and they're passing every single level in a glitchy way and not seeing all the enemies and they're seeing none of the enemies, none of the boss fights, none of the platforming or puzzles, you just feel sad. And if people, like, let's say they are actually kind of laughing at the game, saying, "Oh, it's so glitched, we can do this and we can do that," it's a bit, your pride can take a hit, right?
I mean, you also have like very big games who speedruns end up being like very glitchy.
Yeah.
If you take like 2 examples, obviously Skyrim is super glitchy.
With the bucket.
Yeah, you have like very simple things as well with the physics mostly, and then you have like Breath of the Wild as well, and those 2 are like massively renowned games, yet the speedrun themselves take less than half an hour.
Yeah, but I feel for example, Breath of the Wild is a very good example of some of it was intended.
Very hard to do. Yeah,
is very hard to do. So first of all, if you can manage it, you're really, really skilled, which is also something I think we should mention, is that when you are a developer, you don't want somebody that's not skilled to be able to glitch through the game, right? If the game requires a lot of skill, then you are amazed that people have been able to do it, and that's
like what we mentioned before, which is like it's acceptable. It's very hard to do, but like if it becomes like normal, then
it's not only. Yeah, but there's 2 aspects of hard, right? It's hard because it's a combination of things that you will never think of. I would probably never do randomly, and hard in terms of skill, because some things could be hard because it's just a very weird combination of things. But once you know it, it's easy. But if it's hard because you have to practice a lot and you actually have to be very skilled with your jumps and and with your
But it goes to the
aims.
same like idea, which is you don't want normal people to do it.
Yeah. I'm hearing some like calling from Discord. I don't know if it's on your side or
It's
on
probably
my
on
side.
your side then.
I have no clue. It stopped, so I'm in no disturbing, so I don't know. Sorry for that. I probably you don't hear it if it's only in my side, but
we are
sorry for the
reaching,
interruption.
Our
anyway.
time, anyways.
Yep.
So I don't know if we wanted to mention any other.
Yeah, on the Breath of the Wild,
subtopic.
there was a small thing I wanted to say,
Sure.
which is the fact that you are not obligated to do the boss or to visit all the map.
Of course, yeah, that is.
That was
Like
for
even
sure
just
intended.
playing through the game properly, you could probably finish it. Like I would say in an hour, because the tutorial area still takes a little bit of time in order to get the glider. But it's true that once you get the glider, technically you can already go straight to Ganon, and if you play well and don't get hit, then you don't need health or anything.
Yeah, and that I think is good game design.
That is good. Yeah, that is definitely
that game
perfect.
Is completely based on freedom.
Yeah.
And the fact that you feel that at any point you can go there, there's no, I mean, it's not like you have a list of things you have to do. You have to get this key to be able to unlock the door. You have to, you have to beat this boss.
Necessary for sure.
It really, even for the regular player, it really reinforces this feeling of freedom, and you can do whatever you want in the order you want, or just skip the things you don't want to do. I feel that game is amazing. It's in my opinion,
it's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece for sure. Like
definitely
it really,
one of the
defines
best games
like
of the decade. No questions asked.
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah, and I think all the open world games have to look at it and inspire themselves from it, because the freedom you
which
feel,
I mean, it is off
so
topic,
amazing.
I guess.
Yeah, it is off topic. Sorry for
but no, I mean, what I wanted to mention especially is that like Biomutant seems very inspired by them, but then they don't do any of that. As in, there is also 4 bosses type thing in the borders of the map, but then you have to do them, and you have to do them in a specific order.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a bit. I was quite disappointed by that game, but anyways, it's a different topic.
Maybe we could talk about that in
some
another
other time. Yeah.
Some other time. But yeah. And so, how is your playthrough right now doing?
Well, I've done a few levels. A few levels are very hard and very finicky.
So you're playing Trackmania.
I am playing Trackmania, yes. But
and so you've passed a few of them?
Yeah, I passed a few of them. Like usually once I get it to silver or so, I just pass to the next one.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a few of them will end up being quite hard. But yeah, anyways.
For Trackmania, what I usually do is like once you get to silver, I still say I'm gonna try 2 more times to see if I can reach gold, and then if I see it's really hard to reach gold, then I just skip forward to the next one, and I come back eventually when I've done other.
I've done half the maps, and well, I've got a lot of bronze as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, how about you? Did you win any game?
The thing is, I think I'm playing on a hacked server, so it's fun because on Roblox there's kind of a lot of hackers, because it's a free game, right? You can make an account and just hack, and if they block your account, they just make another one.
You can just make a new one.
And in this particular game, in the Arsenal one, the gun game type of game, I've had a lot of hackers, and in this case, the hack consists of a game. The guy kind of is like the only one that appears in the high scores, so he's always first because there's nobody else on the high score. So I don't know how he hacked that, but it's actually an interesting hack, because the other hacks I've seen is people flying or having auto aim,
like
things like
that
and
stuff.
But this one you can actually play regular. That's why I didn't switch servers, because you can actually play and enjoy the game, but you will never win because you are not even on the high scores, right? So I cannot say if I won or not, because I would maybe I would have won in terms of skill or kills and stuff, but I feel I never reached the knife anyway, so I was probably not paying much attention to the game. Just enjoy killing some people.
Of course. Well, yeah. So, like, to conclude, I wanted to I think like the main idea in terms of like for us developers, obviously the like in everything in game development, like it depends a lot on the type of game you are making. But like the main idea that I think we should take from this is that you should always at least take some time and consider it, and at least, well, yeah, sit down and think about the potential, how potentially the game could be speedrunned and what you would allow or wouldn't allow, what you wouldn't want speedrunners to be able to do, I guess. And yeah, I mean, I want to also like re-mention again like GDQ, like Games Done Quick. What they do is pretty cool. Like, check them out for sure. If you want to, if you are interested in speedrunning games yourself, then you can also find like communities through there, and that
especially on Reddit.
Yeah, also like on Reddit, and like you'll probably find discords for specific games, or for specific types of games, and people seem to be like super friendly, and they're probably happy to help you out and teach you.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, obviously, if you can like watch some Game Done Quick, and like donations are always nice.
Yeah, and also you do not forget to say that there are the all the GDQ is also on YouTube. So not on live, but you can see it afterwards.
You can find, yeah, you can find it.
Something.
Like,
yeah,
all the speedruns are always there. They also have interesting interviews with speedrunners and so on. So yeah, I mean, check them out if you're interested.
Yeah.
And just consider speedrunning when making games, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Yep.
And we'll catch up next time.
Stay healthy and stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated.
All right.
Bye. Bye.